Hey there riders, Motojourno Chris here today, and I wanted to have a quick chat about the Ninja 400, which we've now had for a year. And I say we because my wife is technically the main rider. We bought the bike for her because we wanted to upgrade her from a scooter to something really easy to ride, but with like a whole lot more potential. And a year later, I've got to say, I would happily buy a Ninja 400 once again. It's just been such an exceptional machine. So we bought the Ninja 400 for my wife to go from a scooter to a geared motorcycle, with the ease of learning being a big factor, and that's something that will apply to any new rider. Put simply, the clutch and fueling on the Ninja 400 make it one of the easiest machines to get started on when it comes to taking off and learning the clutch. It's a small area that riders will quickly forget about once they've mastered that skill, but stalling your bike a million times is something that really takes the shine out of the whole learning experience, can be potentially dangerous, and will just turn some people off riding if they don't get past that point. Now with the Ninja 400, it's an ideal machine for people with almost no experience, except of course the basic course that you'll have done to get your license, through to those after a simple small capacity performer. The Ninja 400 also really set a bit of a new benchmark in the category with the capacity boost and the performance on offer, while adopting parts from the Ninja 650, such as the suspension. Now, part of that is of course only in the imaginations of would-be riders who like the idea of the biggest capacity option in the 300 to 400cc category, and kind of one-upping the previous leader of the pack, which was generally considered to be the Yamaha R3. Now, obviously, this bike does offer a mix of that 600 to 650 restricted performance alongside that 300cc weight. Does that make the Ninja 400 a standout and clearly better than the likes of Yamaha's R3 or the KTM 390s? Well, at the end of the day, each have their strengths that stand out, and I don't think you'd ever be disappointed with the Ninja 400, going in with the right expectations. The Ninja 400 is ideal for those looking for a new bike, or if you can pick one up secondhand now, which is certainly a possibility a couple of years down the track, and want lots of room to grow and a lot of potential. Or for those more mellow riders who no longer need a 200 horsepower superbike and want a sports bike that's comfortable, fast enough, plenty of fun to ride, cheap to run, and of course a great suburban commuter. Lots of riders get caught up in the frantic rush to upgrade, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the Ninja 400 will realistically do everything you want in a motorcycle and keep delivering well past the legal limits in most nations. Obviously, upgrading to a 600 or a 1000 even will offer a real rush from the extra acceleration you get, but you can have so much fun on the Ninja 400. You really shouldn't discount this as a great option. Now, I have to say, I do think the Ninja 400 is a sizable upgrade over the old 300 it replaced, and the torque and incredible lightweight and great center of gravity of the bike are really big selling points. As far as the overall bike, it's got this beautiful mid-range in it. Obviously 400cc, it's torquier than a lot of the competition, but at the same time, it really does deliver exceptionally well throughout the rev range. So it's nice and strong from right down low, really nice mid-range, gets a little bit flat up top. After a year of riding the bike, I still have to say I've not at all got bored with it. Today, having some fun through the twisties, it was just so much fun. And you know, even though I've got the Daytona in the garage at home, the Ninja, it's lighter. It's a little bit, I'm not gonna say it's a little bit more flickable. However, it's a really easy thing to ride through the twisties at a good pace. And also compared to the Daytona, obviously on this, I feel like I'm actually really having a go on the bike. On the Daytona, I just can't because, you know, there's too much potential speed there to really feel like you're doing anything at, you know, 20% throttle or 20% of revs or whatever. Whereas on the Ninja 400, you can actually take advantage of all of that power on offer and have like heaps and heaps of fun on it, which is really important because as a first bike and even as a long-term bike purchase, you want to be able to just go out and have fun on the bike whenever you want. And with the Ninja 400, it's going to be an awesome everyday commuter as well. So it's got the nice upright seating position. It's got a really nice low reach to the ground. Simple dash, simple controls, everything's just what you'd expect on a motorcycle like this. You know, there's no really complicated electronic systems or anything like that. just done some tasteful additions. It's got the Arrow Racetech exhaust, which I have to say that really did give the bike a new lease of life for me after, you know, say 9 months or however long we'd had the bike when we put that on. Just a little bit more exhaust note, and the ability to take the baffle out and give it a, you know, quite a bit more exhaust note is a really, really nice feature. And it really cleans up the look of the bike, because it's a nice looking sports bike, but with the Arrow exhaust, it looks like a proper sports bike compared to that kind of, you know, really basic stock exhaust, which is not the nicest looking exhaust. Obviously a bit of crash protection. It's got the Kawasaki tank bag on it, and it's got the Ventura rack on the back. The Ventura rack on the back is just the most useful modification on any bike ever. You know, I've got the camera bag in there today. I've got some pies that I picked up at Pie in the Sky to take home to keep the wife happy because she didn't get to come out today. And really, really great addition there. I wouldn't mind a larger screen on the front for a little bit more wind protection. And I do have these SDR adjustable levers just for a bit of adjustability on that front. Brakes, really, really great. I guess you could say, compared to something like the Svartpilen 401 that I just tested, which had a 4-piston caliper from Biber, or kind of the Brembo second brand, you do notice that these don't have the same bite and power, but I think there's plentiful bite and power for the bike there, so I'm not going to complain, certainly. The standard suspension system a year later, really, really good. Great sorted front end. The back can get a little bit rough over the really rough roads, but that happens on practically anything, unless you're on like a real lounge chair setup tourer. So no complaints there either, and that's preload adjustable. I guess, you know, after a year, I thought perhaps, you know, that combination of performance and lightness and everything like that might become a little bit boring. But in all honesty, it hasn't at all. It's just such an exceptional machine. And as I said, I would happily go out and buy another Ninja 400. I always do say, of course, you know, in the lambs category, the bikes, they're all really, really good. And it really comes down to kind of what you like as a rider, which can make the difference between the motorcycles. I really like the look of the Ninja 400. I like that it ties back into Kawasaki's racing efforts really, really closely. Obviously, if you're a Yamaha fan, you get that with the R3. If you're a KTM fan, you get that with the RC390. So, you know, that's a very subjective choice there. But I still, you know, I love the little details like the sharp nose on this bike. The headlights on this are pretty much some of the best headlights I've seen on a lambs bike, which is really important if you're riding at night. And I guess, as I said, you know, there's just a couple of niggles which, you know, I've always had with the bike. The seat's a little bit hard, but, you know, for shorter rides, not such an issue. It's not really a touring bike, but it is something that you could fix quite easily. Obviously, as well, rolling off the throttle and rolling on the throttle, just sometimes it's a little bit rough, but generally speaking, it's really, really good. It's got nice fueling. It's got great fuel economy. I think I did 200 Ks on 8 litres, which was, you know, having a bit of fun. So you can expect to get even more than that if you were doing a lot of highway riding or a lot of longer distances. That was mainly suburban riding, which is never ideal for fuel mileage. The stock tyres still going really, really well, barely worn. I mean, you are seeing kind of the heat cycles in them now. Overall, the build quality, it still looks great. Obviously, it has not been washed in quite a while, so, you know, not too much to say about that there. It does need a wash and a polish, but it still looks great. And just overall, I think it's a really ideal option for someone looking for a first bike or a commuter bike, or just essentially, you know, like a great learner sports bike. There are going to be people who say, oh, there's not enough power and stuff like that. I can absolutely tell you the Ninja 400 has plentiful power. It's got plenty of torque. You can have so much fun on this bike. It's going to be 10 times better for commuting. It's going to be 10 times better for the suburban riding and for the more boring duties. And you can still have heaps of fun on the weekend. Obviously, there's the Z400, which I tested. I really like the Z400, but I probably would come back to the Ninja 400. I'd probably, as I said, put a bigger screen on for a little bit more wind protection, because I think if I did that for the longer highway stints, that'd really help. And also, it'd probably help with the camera, which is chin mounted, and getting a little bit of wind away from the helmet. But that's a very small thing. You know, there's lots of things you could do to this bike, but as I've said with the basics, you know, aftermarket exhaust on it, the Arrow Race Tech, a little bit of crash protection, a little bit of luggage, and you're sorted, and it'll handle pretty much anything you can imagine, which is the main thing to me. So if you're considering a Ninja 400, I hope this has been of help. Like I said, we've had the bike over a year and it's still a bike I often choose over my Daytona 675, which should give you an idea of just how much fun you can have on the Ninja, not to mention how good it is. Any things I'd like to change in the future by Kawasaki? Well, there's not that many. A better seat would be great, but would probably raise the seat height, so it's a bit of a trade-off in that regard. Smoothing out that infrequent throttle and engine braking issue would be welcome, but again, it seems to be a bit of an interaction between the fueling and where that slipper clutch comes in and where the engine braking basically comes on. Now, adjustable levers would be a nice touch, maybe LED indicators too, just to kind of bling the bike up a little bit. However, at a really competitive price point, it's always a little bit harder for the manufacturers to get these in. Something that would really fall into the realm of cool and set the new generation of these bikes apart would be something like a quick shifter, but again, that's a very big ask on a bike in this kind of price range. I do think it would probably get a lot of new riders on board though, and it'd reset that bar up another step, just like the Ninja did originally. I do have to say, I'd still really love to see the Versys X 400 come out with this power plant in it, but it'll just be interesting to see what Kawasaki do next, both in their greater range and as well as their learner bikes. I don't think that this new Z supercharged option that they've been teasing us with will be a LAMS or A2 legal machine, that's for sure, but it'll be great to see what it turns out to be. Now, if you've got any questions, just ask in the comments below, and don't forget to sub and hit that notification bell. As always, stay safe out there and have a great day.